Today I want to talk about Ohio State, Oregon, and a date we know, a time we now know, and also a channel. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about Ohio State versus Oregon, taking place in the shoe on September 11th. We all knew that ahead of time, but now we know a time and a channel. It's going to be 1 p.m. Eastern. That is noon Central Time, big noon kickoff. And yes, we're going to get it on Fox, big Fox. And I assume that it's going to be Gus and Joel. I don't know why it wouldn't be Gus and Joel. I mean, they're two of the best at what they do, and they are like the first team for Fox's college football broadcasters. Ought to be awesome. Everybody loves Gus. Everybody loves Joel. I'm really excited to see that one, but I'm also excited to see two what I think are going to be top 5 programs by the end of the year, if not top 10 to start the season. Ohio State is basically a quarterback away. Once again, we know what C.J. Stroud, Kyle McCord, and Jack Miller are capable of, but we also know they have this delicious assortment of wide receivers with Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson holding it down to start, and then you can mix in Jackson Smith and Jigba, Emeka Egbuka, Jaden Ballard, Marvin Harrison Jr., and I keep going down the line. I'm sure many of y'all will in the comments. Tight end is also really interesting for me because Jeremy Ruckert might be, backed up by G. Scott Jr., and I'm a big G. Scott dude. I really enjoy watching him in high school. Can't wait to see him play a little bit more at this 2021 season. But also, on the other side of the ball, we get to see what Haskell Garrett is doing, right? We get to see if Josh Proctor can turn himself into a first-round draft pick at safety. You also know that you got Cam and Seven Banks over there at corners. It ought to be a lot of fun as they're breaking in 4 new linebackers. Defensively, we know Kerry Combs, Al Washington and Nim, Larry Johnson Sr., they all want to run their single high press man coverage stuff so that they can do things off of it. I would also like to see Court Williams get some play here, but we'll see. Coming back from an ACL injury is not an easy thing, even for a dude that is probably marked for superstardom like him. Oregon is interesting here because they quasi-return a starting quarterback in Anthony Brown, but Ty Thompson might push him. I don't think that Thompson is ready right now, but that's not up to me. That's up to Joe Moorhead and Mario Cristobal. I know that Anthony Brown is like a super senior, and I would like to see him get a shot, and also he looked pretty good during the last couple of games for Oregon, even going to the Pac-12 championship and helping them win one without winning the Pac-12 North. You also got C.J. Verdell back there at tailback. Feels like he's been there for a decade. I'm excited to see him, and we know Mario Cristobal is an offensive line coach by trade, so the offensive line is going to be good, even with Penei Sewell getting drafted this year. It basically is saying, this is what we're able to do if you give us an opportunity. Defensively, Kayvon Thibodeau, Noah Sewell, Justin Flo, Dante Manning, it could be epic at the shoe, and it is the game that I have circled for the past 3 years now because I wanted to see Ohio State travel to Eugene, take on the Ducks. Pandemic breaks out. That game gets scrapped. Now we're going to get to see the game. We're going to get to see it in the shoe, but also in the post-Justin Fields era, get to see what Ryan Day can actually do with a dude that he groomed straight out of high school. The knock on Lincoln Riley was that he had not developed a dude out of high school to be a starting quarterback in his system. Going from Baker Mayfield to Kyler Murray to Jalen Hurts, now Spencer Rattler, and now it looks like Rattler's going to be, if not the first quarterback off the board and the number 1 overall pick, certainly one of the first 2-3 dudes off the board. I'm really interested to see which one of these guys Ryan Day chooses to start, whether it be C.J. Stroud, Jack Miller, or Kyle McCord, but I'm also more interested in seeing what it looks like to have a full year in his system and then develop into his system over the next 3 years. Remember, Justin Fields plays 2019 and part of 2020. I say part of 2020, 8 games in 2020. And he was magnificent. He was amazing, but he first committed and signed to Georgia, and then he went into the portal. I know that Ohio State fans are going to be smart about this and say things like, we don't think that that's that big a deal because in the grand scheme of things, it's not. It's what can you do with the guy that you have at the time, and he did outstanding things with Dwayne Haskins, maybe overachieved with Dwayne Haskins, which I think we don't actually talk about because what Dwayne Haskins turned out to be as a member of the Washington football team, he's overdrafted, but you do that with quarterbacks anyway, and people were willing to let that slide, but to have to release that guy is not what you wanted at all. And then there's that whole trope about Ohio State quarterbacks and how their game don't translate to the NFL. You got to be able to sling it down the field, right? It's why Malik Willis is getting so much buzz, is he can throw a ball 75 yards on a rope, just flip the wrist. Matter of fact, Quincy Avery told Bruce Feldman at The Athletic, that dude has the strongest arm I've ever seen. And he's coached Josh Dobbs and Justin Fields and Deshaun Watson and Trey Lance, not Trevor Lawrence. But you get what I'm saying there, right? If CJ Stroud is that dude, and he seems to be that dude, that could be it. And I talked with TJ Houshmandzadeh and Jordan Palmer during the Fox draft party about a couple of quarterbacks they are high on. They really like Desmond Ridder. They really like CJ Stroud. Like, they're seeing the same things that everybody else is seeing. And they've seen them for some time. He's about his business. He goes to work. He's a little slight, but that's something that doesn't really matter all that much at the college football level, and really not at the NFL level when you get right down to it. But we got that. We know what that's going to be. I'm excited to see what Oregon and Ohio State looks like. Toward the back end here now, many of y'all have seen the release that Ohio State put out, in which 7 Ohio State players were targeted over the last 4 years by a massage therapist who lives 2 hours away from campus, and had basically, it felt like from the investigation that Ohio State did, tried to con the kids. And my goodness, no NCAA violations, no no laws were broken. There we go. But I wanted to mention it because I know that you've seen it and people are going to ask. I don't have a lot to add there. I'm just glad that Ohio State did what it was supposed to do. I'm happy about the transparency, because I also understand if you don't say anything about this, it looks bad, but you also want to protect the kids. You want to protect their identities, and I get all of that, and I think they handled it in the best way that you possibly could, especially in lieu of what we know about sexual assault and what we know about sexual misconduct. It's a really difficult thing to walk. It's an even more difficult thing to investigate, and when I read the report, saw they talked to 117 people in the program, so they were being thorough, and as far as they're concerned at Ohio State, this is them saying it, the case is closed for them, and that's all I'm going to have to say about it. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.